Welcome, everyone. Woo, that was loud. Welcome back to the Yo Bro Nation YouTube channel. This is our retro movie reviews. Of course, I am Zach with the Yo Bro Nation YouTube channel, your host. And I get sillier every time I think I do one of these intros. So, welcome everyone back to the channel. How are you all doing? I think I haven't done one of these in over a year. Yeah, over a year. Look, got fuzzies on my head. What am I? Honest to God, what am I anymore? Oh my goodness. How is everyone doing today? Welcome back to your retro movie reviews, you guys. And man, you know what? I have a doozy today. Legitimately, I have a doozy. So I'm doing a really old movie, and I know most of the time when I've done these, it's been like 80s and 90s. No, I'm going way back. So, full warning, if you've never seen this movie, I am doing spoilers. Because this movie is like 60 years old, I think. If I'm doing my math correct, 60 years old. I'm doing House on Haunted Hill 1959, the original version of this movie. Of course, they did do a remake in 1999, which maybe I'll eventually review the remake at some point, perhaps, maybe. But this movie was released by Allied Artists, again, in 1959, and was directed by William Castle, who is a very well-known director from back in that time, had lots of different movies, very well-known. I think y'all should definitely go check out his work. This, of course, there's a lot of similarities between this and the 99 version, but there's also a lot of differences. And I'm not really going to go deep dive into them in this one because it's the original. But perhaps I'll talk about the differences once I go and watch the 99 version in a future retro review. Now, if you're not sure what a retro review is, basically I take movies from 2002, 2003, and back, and I talk about them. They're retro to me. I like the little graphic, actually, that I actually have going on here. But, oh my gosh. Now, this movie is short. The runtime's only 75 minutes. It was actually a breeze to get through, to be honest. But this movie starts the great Vincent Price as Frederick Loren, who is a millionaire throwing a party for his wife, Annabelle, played by Carol Omart. And he invites 5 people to join him. And yes, I'm looking at my notes. So, you get Lance Schroeder, who is a pilot. He's played by Richard Long. Nori Manning, who is there because he really feels like she could use the money due to the fact that she had an accident with her family. And she is played by Caroline Craig. You get Dr. David Trent, who seems to be very shady and very dismissive of a lot of things, but he's played by Alan Marshall. You get Mr. Watson Pritchard, who's played by Elijah Cook Jr., and Ruth Bridges by Julie Mitchum. And you don't get a lot of background on her, really. He goes over it in the introductions of everyone. Honestly, I didn't take notes of that. I was trying to jot the names of everyone who was in it. So, but you also get to see Leona Anderson as Mrs. Slide and Howard Hoffman as Jonas Slide, who were the caretakers. But you only get to see them like for 1 or 2 scenes. So, this movie, though, starts off with Watson talking about the night he was there and people who have died and how he barely made it out alive when he was found the next morning. And it's in the old traditional 50s where it's just like a ghostly head over a dark screen, and it's funny. But then you get Vincent Price and his floating head over it, giving us a voiceover, the details of said party for his wife, and how he's giving away $10,000 for each person if they can spend 12 hours, and then he goes from car to car introducing our, let's not call them victims, but our party guests for the night. it was something. And you see the house as the cars are coming up, and it's a kind of small looking building. It doesn't even look like a house. It looks like almost like an industrial building when you see this house. But you see all the characters meet, and none of them know who Mr. Frederick is. Or sorry, Mr. Frederick. Mr. Lauren, they don't know who he is. Frederick being his first name. And the house immediately starts acting weird, and a chandelier falls, but no one really reacts to it all that much. Hey, it's the 50s, right? You do see, though, right away, the tension between Mr. and Mrs. Lauren. She says she has no intentions of being part of it, that she doesn't even know anyone there. So that confirms that, yeah, he just invited random people. And they're talking about how they've done these things to each other and how he can't divorce her and this and that. He says, but he does offer her $1 million. And he's like, but you want all the money. She's like, yes. And then she talks about how she poisoned him and how that was fun, right? It's, oh my goodness. We go back down to them, and Pritchard's talking about how, his brother and his sister-in-law were there, and she killed them, and there was dismemberment. They never found the heads. Like, the dude sounds like he's crazy, and I'm pretty sure his character's drunk through most of this movie. My goodness, that's all I can say. Mr. Lauren does come down. He does introduce himself. He explains the rules to all his party guests. Says that the doors will be locked at midnight. So if they want to leave, they need to leave before then. If they do not collect their $10,000. And then you see Pritchard, he's talking to him, and you can tell he's very paranoid. And he brings up his brother again. And he talks about, there's 7 ghosts in this house, 4 men, 3 ladies. And Dr. Trent is like, yeah, well, hey, there's us. I guess a ghost to each of us, right? And they're all playing it, but he's like trying to convince them to leave. So he then shows them around, and he shows them like the acid pit where people died. Talks about people dying in the cellar and all sorts of stuff. You do get to see during this time, though, Lance and Nora do kind of like each other. They're like the younger leads of the film. So obviously, him grabbing her every time something happens. Very 50s, 40s, 30s movie like where, the damsel in distress and then the hero there to save her when she needs him. And that's kind of their thing. But they talk about the $10,000 offer and why she's there. And she's like, well, I'm the only one providing for my family. She's like, you just made me the offer this afternoon, but no mention of the building being locked down. She's like, oh, yeah, me too. You see them starting to explore, and that's when you get your first look at the ghosts when he goes into a room and bumps his head, so they check on him. Speaking of that, when you see the ghosts, when you see what little you see of them in this, my God, the 50s... The effects of the 50s it's hilarious, man. It's all very practical. You get like lights, excuse me, my nose is itching, but you get lights like dimming and flickering and stuff like that. It's very simple, very basic stuff. And like I said, everything was very practical. Like at one point you see the only full apparition you see, which turns out, I guess, to be one of the caretakers. And she's like, and she just kind of slides out of frame. Yeah, I'm rolling back into my frame. But it's so cheesy, but I don't know. You just can't help but love it. You honestly, you can't. So you start to learn that maybe not everyone are who they say you are. They start very quickly planting little seeds, right? That everyone's kind of shady. Everyone's kind of got their guard up. Some people are clearly lying, which you kind of guess there's going to be some sort of a twist in this movie, right? You get Mrs. Lauren talking to Nora, kind of like being shady about her husband. And then she meets Mr. Schroeder, Lance, and she's, talking about this isn't a party. He's planning something. So she's already planting the seeds of doubt with people. You also end up seeing how controlling Mr. Loren actually is. Grabbing his wife by the hair. Are you ready yet? I'm not going. Are you ready yet? Like, forcibly making her do this. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little uncomfortable if I'm being honest. So he does go down. You introduce the caretakers, and he's talking about, okay, so this is your last chance. Once these doors are locked, you're not getting back out. You don't get your $10,000. So he's reiterating, but then the lights flicker and you hear the sound of wind, and then the doors are locked. The caretakers left without ever saying a word, and that's the extent of their whole thing. I guess they're both blind. I think that's what he said. They were both blind. So he says, we have party gifts, and he opens up these little coffins, similar to the 99 version, and everyone gets a gun. Of course, Pritchard's like, oh, these don't do you no good. Like, the man is just constantly, oh, the ghost, man, this isn't going to do you no good. So everyone's kind of suspicious of each other. And then, my goodness, the dialogue in this movie just is so cheesy for this time, which I think brings it some sort of like beautiful, it makes it beautiful because it's just how cheesy all the dialogue is. Like, I'm telling you, go watch this and just listen to the way they talk. It's so 1950s. It makes it genuine. Honestly, it makes it feel so genuine. And she okay, for instance, Nora freaking out. You talking about your brother and your sister-in-law and how they never found the heads? Well, all of you can follow me and I'll show you. And she goes crazy. She goes up there and it's not there, and she freaks out and she's all, all the time. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, but yet charming in some way. It's charming. So they all kind of separate. Lance goes back to talk to Nora, but Nora's not in there, and he finds the head hanging up inside Nora's closet. He goes down, he confronts Pritchard. What do you know about this? Where is she? And he's just like, got a knife. She's going to be one of them soon. She's about to be one of them. The dialogue's so cheesy. It's so freaking cheesy, but it's so great. You can't help but laugh at it. It's so awesome. He sounds batshit crazy. I wrote that in my notes. What did I put? He confronts Pritchard, who sounds batshit crazy. Annabelle is found hanging herself. Maybe. Like, you're like, what? Why would she hang herself? And you can tell they're clearly setting something up. And again, I'm reiterating, spoilers. Lance, though, does find Nora, who says that she was taken into a room. It was dark, she couldn't see, but she's sure it was Mr. Loren trying to kill her. So she thinks. Yeah, I wasn't stupid. I figured it at this point. Especially since I've seen the 99 version. So I kind of already figured maybe where they were going with this. Dr. Trent, though, then accuses Mr. Loren of killing his wife, and Mr. Loren, of course, accuses them of killing his wife. It's like a back and forth game. But they all agree to go to their rooms separately, and that if someone comes out, then that is clearly an admission of guilt for the next 6 hours. So everyone's going to the rooms, all giving each other the evil eye. Of course, Pritchard, saying goodnight does us no good. Then he goes to the dude, my God, this guy was something else. He really was. He was. So Lance goes into the other room, which is joined up with Nora's, and he says, look, I'm going to find a way out. I'll come get you. Which leads him to a secret door that he then gets trapped in. Sweet. Nora continues, though, to be pursued. Like, literally, storm is starting during all this, and a rope starts being fed into her room, and you somehow see Mrs. Loren floating outside her window, and then she disappears in the rope. Like, she comes into frame, and she comes back out of frame, which, given what I know at the end, is like, wait, how'd she do that? Okay, fair enough. But so she leaves the room, and she's being pursued, and a hand reaches around the corner, right? Like, this is the corner, and it's all, And it reaches for her, and she runs, and she sees Mrs. Lauren hanging again. She screams, "Ah! Ah!" But no one hears her. She runs down to the cellar, and then hears an organ playing. So she's being pursued still. Mr. Lauren and Dr. Trent, Dr. Trent comes to his room. He opens the door. "Is this an admission of guilt?" He's like, "Certainly not." "Simply someone left their room, and I heard a noise, and I figured we should go check it out." I mean, he didn't say exactly like that. And, of course, Mr. Lauren Vincent Price is like, "Heard an organ?" "Yes." So they separate. "You should go downstairs. I'll look up here." So they separate, and he's going downstairs. And, oh my gosh, where was I here? So you find out that the doctor and Mrs. Lauren are in cahoots, and that they're trying to get him killed. They're trying to get Mr. Lauren killed by torturing poor Nora into thinking that she's literally being pursued by these spirits. So they're making her, what's the word he used for? I forgot the word that he used. He used this word so many times. I can't even remember it. It's stupid. But they're having her become panicky and frantic. So that way she'll shoot Mr. Lauren when he comes downstairs to the cellar. Which she does. She goes downstairs and she's shot. Mrs. Lauren, though, then does, because, David goes down there. David Trent. He goes down there to, I guess, make sure that the deed is done. So Mrs. Lauren, though, does go down to the cellar to follow and to find him. Looking for Dr. Trent. She's like, David. And then bones start to rise out of the pit, the acid pit, and start coming for her. And you hear Mr. Lauren's voice, "Oh, you got what you wanted." And then he freaks her out so much that she falls into the acid pit. And out comes Vincent Price, Mr. Lauren, with a puppeteer system attached to the bones that supposedly actually belonged to Mr. Trent, the doctor. It's like, oh my god. So twist, he's alive, and he used Trent's bones. This is insane, right? This is insane. So the rest of the people come downstairs. Mrs. Bridges, Mr. Pritchard, Lance, and Nora all come down there, and they all see Mr. Lauren standing down there. And he tells them what happened. He says, "They were plotting to kill me." He says, "But I'll allow judgment to decide whether or not I'm guilty once we leave here." And he admits that she's like, "But I shot you." He's like, "No, my dear, I put blanks in your gun." Oh, wow. So he knew what they were doing, even though they were really good at hiding it. I don't know. Logic, right? Logic. So then it's Pritchard. He walks around to the acid, and he's looking. He's talking to the rest of them. And he says, and I quote, "Now there's 9. There will be many more." And he hears some noises. "Now they're coming for me. Then they'll come for you." And the last shot is in the main room, panning out through the door, and you just hear laughter, and then the steel door shuts. And that's the end of the movie. This movie, look, it is what it was for the time, right? It is what it was for the time, which is cheesy but great, man. It was great. I loved this movie. I've only seen this like 2-3 times. I do prefer the remake in 1999, but this, for what it was, especially since Vincent Price was in it, it is great. This man was awesome. Everything from Last Man on Earth to Bats and his little role in Thriller. Like, I love this freaking movie. And I encourage anyone who's not seen this to find a way to watch it. VOD, whatever you got to do. Make it a part of your Halloween. Watch both of them back to back. Do something. But hey, hope you all enjoyed this review. I loved this movie. As cheesy as it was the 1950s. It had the right to be cheesy. It was almost the 60s. But, of course, I am Zach. I hope you all have a great, fantastic, wonderful day. Happy Halloween. We're almost there, everybody. And Sunday, Susie's got a video. She's doing a review of her own. I hope everyone looks forward to that. And of course, tomorrow, number 3 for the Halloween Countdown series. It's coming out. Halloween 2018. That comes out tomorrow. Y'all have a great day. I'm Zach, and remember, be kind to each other and join the nation.